Because for me, sometimes a game's score, its soundtrack, can be absolutely crucial to creating a memorable experience. And this will be no surprise to any of you, but we're going to focus on retro games today, so nothing beyond the 16-bit era, at least for this video. Hey everyone, my name is Perry, and welcome back to the Cassette Phase. So I hope that you all had a good weekend. Ours was good, but it's Monday yet again, and we've got a really busy week ahead. Not so busy, however, that we can't take a few minutes to share some nostalgia here in the den. So that's what we're going to do today. And the idea for today's video actually came directly from my morning at work. Which I knew was going to be busy. I actually started working on some stuff last night, taking some time on a Sunday evening to knock out some of those easier tasks, some of those admin type things, just to make my Monday morning a little bit easier. Well, as many of you know, I like to start my mornings off with a little bit of cartoons going in the background, at least while I finish my morning coffee. But today, I really needed to focus in. I had some things that I really needed to hone in on. And when that happens, I like to put on some really peaceful, relaxing music. Still nostalgic, of course, but just some really soothing background noise when something like Herculoids or Thundercats action might just be a little bit too distracting. And that's where my video game music playlist comes in. And I know what you're thinking. How is that supposed to be relaxing background noise? Well, you're right, but I have some really cool, peaceful sounding instrumental versions of some of my favorite video game music saved in my Spotify. And that stuff hits the spot for these types of moments. There's an artist called TPR that does really pretty, relaxing instrumental versions of Zelda music or Final Fantasy music that I listen to a lot. So I was thinking today might be a good day to share my top 10 most nostalgic pieces of video game music. And don't worry, these won't all be the peaceful, relaxing versions. And we're going to share some sounds today. Sounds that immediately take me back in time to the days of wasting entire afternoons or evenings escaping into some of our favorite pixelated adventures. Because for me, sometimes a game's score, its soundtrack, can be absolutely crucial to creating a memorable experience. And this will be no surprise to any of you, but we're going to focus on retro games today, so nothing beyond the 16-bit era, at least for this video. And of course, we'll mix in our cassette of the day as always. And also, I have a very minor little room change to share with you guys. Like I said, nothing major, but I'm pretty excited about it, so I'll show that to you as well. But yeah, we're going for just another relaxing nostalgia break here in the den today. Sound like fun to you? Come hang out. Okay everyone, welcome back to the Ottoman, and welcome to another great day here in the den. And before we get into our cassette of the day and then on to the rest of our video, let me show you just a quick little minor update that I made here to the den. So normally I would pan over and show you what's playing on the smart TV today, but the smart TV is off because I've made a recent addition to the den here. And let me just give you the quick backstory. So for a long time, we had a little 9-inch TV VCR combo out on our kitchen counter. Well, it wasn't getting as much use as it used to because the VCR doesn't work very well. As we know, those things wear out, and I was using it a ton up there, and it was really just to the point where only like 1 or 2 tapes would play, and it wasn't getting much used, and I didn't really have the space to add a DVD player to it up there. And so I thought, would it get better use back here in the den? Well, of course, because as you guys know, my Sony CRT just recently bit the dust. So I've been, surviving with just the RCA console TV, which is awesome, of course, and then the smart TV in here. So I did bring the 9-inch TV VCR back here. And before I did that, I was looking online at various pictures of how people have integrated these into their spaces, because in order for me to bring it back here, it had to make sense from a space perspective. I didn't want to cram it somewhere where I wasn't going to be able to see it. And so I saw some pictures online of people that have put them on their desks, next to their computer monitors or on the side of their work, Surface desktop area. So I'm like, I think I have a big enough desk where I could try that out for a little while and just see how it goes. So let me show you. And we've got some Charles in Charge going today. Yeah, so as you can see, I still have plenty of room. And when I need to focus on work, I just focus here. But when it's time to take a break, I just turn this way. And I love it so far. Now I did have to hook a DVD player up to it. I had a spare little, DVD player that I put down here. Easily accessible. And this is just gonna be perfect. When I take a lunch break, I wanna put my feet up on the desk and just watch a silly old sitcom or a cartoon or a movie. Now I've got a spot to do that. I mean, I had other places to do it too, but come on, how cool is that? Love it, love it. All right, let's get on with our cassette of the day. So we're doing an audio cassette this time around because the theme of today's video is music. And I wanted to grab a tape that I was looking at the selection over there and I was thinking, let me pull one down that everybody probably had, or maybe even still has, or at least that has some songs that everybody has heard. And so, again, I'm not going to win any cool points with this one. Just like I said when I showed you guys Debbie Gibson and Tiffany, we're going a little later here, summer of 1990, and I remember this so clearly. And let me just set the stage because I did a little bit of research before I sat down to record. So there is a big single off of this album that ended up knocking another big single out of the #1 spot on Billboard. Okay, so think back to summer 1990. If you were watching MTV like I was, one of the songs that was always on, the video that was on the most, I think, that year, was Vogue by Madonna. Huge hit. Big iconic late 80s, early 90s type song. Well, it got booted out of the #1 spot by a song called Hold On by the group Wilson Phillips. All right, now, before you judge me, you guys all had this tape, or maybe the CD. This was everywhere. It sold 10 million copies. And that Hold On song, it still comes on the radio to this day. We'll listen to some of these radio stations in the car that play 80s and 90s music, and that one comes on pretty much every day. And it's still catchy. And there were some other catchy songs on here too. I really liked Impulsive. There was a song called Release Me that had a really good melody to it. And it makes sense. I think these ladies were from musical lineage, right? I think a couple of them were the daughters of Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. And then I think the other one was related to someone from the Mamas and the Papas. So of course they were gonna grow up and have hit songs on the radio. It only makes sense. And it's one of those things like, would I listen to it a lot or frequently? No. But every once in a while, put that thing in and just remember like how carefree and summery this thing sounded and felt. And really, most of the songs are pretty catchy. There's not a whole lot of duds on there. Like, it's a good one to just play front to back and just let yourself be transported back to the summer of 1990 and beyond. So I thought it would be a good one to talk about. Let me know if you all have any memories of this album from Wilson Phillips with our cassette of the day. Now, to start off, let me just remind you all that I have always been a pretty casual gamer. so there are still tons of retro games that I have yet to experience. So obviously, my top 10 list is going to be pulled from some of the games that I remember playing. And I know I'm going to miss some of your favorites. I can almost guarantee it. But that's okay, because I'm confident that you're going to hear at least one thing today that transports you back to a simpler time. Whether that was playing Nintendo while sitting on the shag carpet in front of your old TV set, or dropping endless amounts of quarters into your favorite arcade machines while downing Cherry Coke. So let's get started. So coming in at number 10, we've got some music from probably my favorite NES game of all time, and that's Super Mario Bros. 3. And we're going with a classic here. Probably, kind of boring or vanilla with this choice, but we're going with the overworld theme. Yeah, I hear that song, and it didn't always play for very long, just long enough for you to jump between the levels you were going to play, unless you were, getting up to go get a snack or go answer the phone or something, in which case you'd leave it sitting on the overworld map. At least we did. And so hearing that just brings to me like images of sunlight streaming in through the vertical blinds that used to be hanging in our living room at our childhood home. And just brings back so many good memories of those simple summer days sitting around playing some Mario 3. Now for number 9, we've got a theme from a Super Nintendo game that I didn't really play a ton. In fact, we never actually owned it, but we rented it a couple of times. And so even just playing it those few times as a kid, the theme music stuck with me all these years. And I still include it to this day on any playlist that I have where I'm trying to have relaxing, peaceful music going. And that is, I think it's just the theme, just the general theme from the game Secret of Mana. Yeah, just really pretty music there. Especially when it's paired with some of the imagery from that great old game. I've never actually completed Secret of Mana. Maybe I should give that a go again sometime soon, because I know it's a great game, I've just never really completed it. But I think the music alone is worth the price of admission and makes for a great entry here at number 9. Coming in at number 8, we've got a great song from one of my favorite video game franchises of all time, especially when we're talking about the 8-bit and the 16-bit era. And honestly, I could have picked several songs from this franchise to put on this list, but I really felt like I just needed to pick the best one, or my favorite, this time around. And we're talking about the Elec Man stage from Mega Man. Yeah, and like I said, we could have picked any one of the great melodies that you hear throughout that Mega Man franchise. And I don't know if it's because the Elec Man stage was one that I had to play over and over and over again in order to finally get through it. But that particular melody is just the one that has stuck with me the longest, and that's why I'm choosing it for number 8 on the list. All right, so for number 7, we're going to dive back into the world of the Super Nintendo for some music from a game that I got for Christmas one year One of the first games that I ever got for the Super Nintendo. In fact, you've heard me talk about it before on the channel. Besides the pack-in game that I got, which was Super Mario World, the next game that I got was F-Zero. And the first track that you hear on the first track is called Mute City, and it is just a great one. And there were other great songs throughout that F-Zero game, but being that Mute City was the first track, it's probably the one that I heard the most, and so the melody just sticks with me all these years later. So great choice there for number 7. Okay, so we've made it to number 6 on our countdown. For another series that could honestly have a whole top 10 list on its own, and that is The Legend of Zelda. So we're going to go with the Super Nintendo classic, A Link to the Past. And while the obvious choice would probably be just the overworld theme, the Hyrule Field music that we all know and love, that's been around for years and years and years, I'm actually going to go with a different choice for this one, and that's going to be the soothing, relaxing sounds of Kakariko Village. And I don't know what it is exactly about that one, other than the fact that it has just a great, memorable melody. I think it's just kind of like, you're out on this adventure with Link, and you're going all over the place to all these dungeons, and you're traveling across all these landscapes, and then hearing all kinds of sounds and music, and then everything sounds big and epic. And then you get back into that little village, that little town with the chickens clucking around, and you hear that song. And I just love it so much. So that's why it landed at number 6 on the countdown. Now, for number 5, this is one that, my childhood version of myself would have said, no way you're ever going to put that on the top 10 list. You hate this song. But I grew to love it over the years, and it just feels so nostalgic now that I just had to put it here on the list. And it comes to us from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! And specifically, we're going with the music that plays while Little Mac is riding his bike through the city. The little training montage. I just love that song so much. Let's take a quick listen. Okay, so admit it. You were humming along with that, right? Or at least maybe in your head. Yeah, I don't know. As kids, at least for us, we always wanted to skip that part. We were like, let's just get back to the game. And I don't think you could skip it, right? You could mash all the buttons you wanted to, but you were going to hear that song start to finish. And that's why it's stuck with me all these years later, and that's why it's so high on the list, coming in at number 5. Number 4, we're going to stick with the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES, with some music from the first RPG I ever played, the original Final Fantasy 1. I just have so many great memories of that game. I can still picture the bedroom floor with the maps laid out and the little guides that told you, all the stats on all the various weapons and enemies. And I know that is far from a perfect game. It's got all kinds of flaws, but being that it was the first RPG I ever played, I've just got so many great memories of it. And the song that I'm choosing here is just simply called The Town Theme. See if you can remember this one. And similar to the Zelda music that we listened to before, I feel like the Final Fantasy overworld music is kind of big and grand and epic sounding, and then all the different dungeons and all the things that you have to go through in that game. When you finally get to a town and you get to go, buy all your heals and your potions back and stay at the inn, the music that you hear is just peaceful and satisfying. And I love it so much. That's why it landed at number 4 on the list. Almost done, guys. We've made it to number 3 on the countdown. Now, you've heard me talk about this song before, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it today. But it comes to us from Donkey Kong Country. You know where I'm going with this. Aquatic Ambiance. And that's at least the 3rd or 4th time that I've played that music here on the channel. It's just awesome. I know they've kind of turned it into like a little bit like a meme in recent years, I think, which is unfortunate because it's getting really played out, but it's just got a great feel. It perfectly captures the essence of the Super Nintendo in that era, better than any song on the rest of the system, in my opinion. Now, coming in at number 2 is another song that I've talked about several times here on the channel. We're going back to the NES for this one, so 8-bit glory of that original DuckTales game, and we have to, of course, choose the Moon theme. Yeah, and I feel like to do it justice, I had to put a couple different versions in there. I mean, it sounds great with the chiptune 8-bit sound that it came with on the game, but that's been done in different ways over the years. There's piano arrangements and like full orchestral arrangements because it's just a really good song. It's a really well-composed piece of music, and that's why it had to be almost at the very tip top of the list, so close to number 1, but coming in at number 2 with the DuckTales Moon Level theme music. And rounding out our countdown with the number 1 spot, not everyone is going to agree, but me personally, I think this might be the prettiest video game music that I've ever encountered, which I mentioned before is limited. I haven't played everything out there by any means, but we're going back to the Super Nintendo here. And we're also going back to the Final Fantasy franchise with a song that comes to us, well, I knew it as Final Fantasy III. I guess it's actually technically Final Fantasy VI. But here in the US, where I played it on the Super Nintendo as a kid, it was Final Fantasy III, and I loved that game. And I think the best music, and there was a ton of great music there, all throughout that game, honestly. But the best song, in my opinion, is called Terra's Theme. Wow, I mean, video game music aside, that's just a great piece of music, in my opinion. Like, it could be part of a film score to a major motion picture and not sound out of place at all. It's just that good. And just hearing it again, it takes me back. You know, it's soothing, it's comforting, it's familiar. It's just got a great melody. And sometimes you hear these songs over and over throughout games and they start to grate on you a little bit. They start to get a little bit tiresome when you hear them over and over. Not Terra's theme. I could seriously listen to that song on loop probably, and I kind of have in the past. And that's why I had to put it at number 1. And there we are. So I hope that you all had a good time today with our little audio adventure back in time. And if you did, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Also, be sure to like the video, but only if you actually liked this video. But for now, and as always, relax. Enjoy life and be kind. We'll see you in the next one.